A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "God forbid it, Lord. This must never happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Well, if you're familiar at all, as I suspect you are, with Peter through his betrayal throughout the Gospels, you will know that sometimes he thinks and acts rashly without giving it sufficient thought before he acts. And certainly in today's gospel, this is an example of a time that he does that. As Jesus is telling him what's ahead for him, what he's going into, it is so difficult for Peter to hear. Understandably so. They have been together for such a long time and done so many wonderful and miraculous things together that it would be hard for anyone to hear Jesus talk about departing. And so Peter rashly denies what Jesus has told about what will be happening to him, because he has such a difficult time believing it. And so he denies that it's going to happen, and Jesus has to rebuke him. Peter is such an interesting character because he often does speak his mind, sometimes before thinking about what the effect of that is going to be, but he does speak his mind freely. He also is a very faithful apostle, even though he is shown through the scriptures as being very human, and sometimes his humanity gets in the way of the work that he does as an apostle. However, he always returns back to Christ, and he has a very revered place in the history of Christianity. And we are grateful for what he has done and how he has led the church. I am grateful for him as a person of the scriptures, because it shows us that our humanity, our humanness, doesn't prevent us from being followers of Christ. He called very human people to be his apostles, and he is with us just as he was with them. Amen.